Hello to my fellow food service community from my sunny Orange County, California studio. Nick Portillo here, and this is the Titans of Food Service. Okay, so today I'm going to change it up a little bit on you. I'm still going to talk about food service. It's in the title of the show, so don't you worry. It will be in there. But I'm going to talk today about the Ironman. So what is the Ironman? Well, for those of you following me along, following me, what? Does that even make sense? For those following me on social media, I just recently did the Ironman Texas. An Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim followed by a 112 mile bike, and then you go run a marathon. You have 17 hours to complete the race. It's one long day, but man, it feels good. It's rewarding once you make it. So, a little flashback. In 2013, I told myself I was living in Florence, Italy. I did a study abroad for 4 months. And it was the first time ever living outside of Orange County. I was born and raised in Orange County. Heck, I even went to Chapman University, which is in Orange County. And for the first time in my life, I experienced adventure like no other time before. I was a junior in college, and I was traveling around, touring Italy and checking out all these different countries there in Europe. I even went down into Morocco and Africa. And I just had this incredible sense of adventure and freedom. And I remember I even said, at the time I was a baseball player. I was playing baseball in college. I remember sending an email to my coach saying, "Coach, like I'm hanging up the cleats, man. I found something new, and my life went in a different direction from there, away from baseball." And it was a sad day, but it was the timing couldn't be better. What I ended up doing in my time there is I put together a bucket list of experiences that I wanted to do in my life. I'm not somebody that likes material things. I don't need the jewelry. I don't need the nice car. I'm not looking for a boat or anything like that or high-end clothing. What I want in my life is experiences. I am big on experiences. So I created this bucket list of like all the different experiences that I wanted to do in my life. And, one would be I'm a big New York Yankees fan. I want to go to the Bronx to see the Yankees in a World Series game in my life. Like that is on the list. It's probably number one on the list. So it's things like that. And one of them was to do an Ironman. Now, a little context. I have never in my life completed a triathlon. Never. I don't know the rules of the triathlon. In the past 10 years, I've ridden my bike. This is prior to the Ironman. I had ridden my bike for maybe a combined 1 to 2 hours. And when I say my bike, it was a rented cruiser that I got down at the beach that my dad and I took out one Father's Day. So biking, zero experience. Cycling, that is. And then when it comes to swimming, I mean, I do enjoy surfing. So I'm used to swimming in bodies of water, like in this case, the Pacific Ocean is where I spend most of my time surfing. But competitive swimming, anything like that, that's not in my background. I was a junior lifeguard as a kid. I did that for about 5 summers. But other than that, no, I had never competed in high school or college. So those two sports I had to learn how to do. So it was November 18th, 2023. So at the making of this podcast, probably at this point, just over 6 months ago. It was November 18th, 2023. My wife and I were sitting on the couch, and I said, "Car, it's time. I need to go become an Ironman." She was totally on board. She was totally excited. She's like, "How are you going to do it?" I'm like, "I have no clue. No freaking clue. I've never done a triathlon. I don't own a bike. I don't swim. I hate running. I'm not a long distance runner. I've never ran a marathon. The longest I'd ever done is a 5K. I walked a 5K like 4 years prior. Shout out to the Tussin Dino Dash, maybe 3 years prior. Everything was completely not in my comfort zone, not something that I did, but it was on the bucket list and I freaking had to do it. And this was the best time to do it. So November 18th, 2023, in just under 5.5 months, on April 17th, 2024 was the Ironman Texas. So I signed up. I put my name on the dotted line. There was even a thing like, you sure you want to do this? You can sign up for insurance in case you back out. You can get a portion of your money back. I was like, nope, no insurance needed. Even Carly was like, you sure? I was like, I'm in. I'm taking the risk. I'm taking the jump. So here we go. I dive headfirst in. First day out in the pool, swimming around for an hour, kind of just going back and forth, taking breaks in between. I was at my complex, so there's people there like relaxing at the pool. They're like, what is this guy doing? I didn't care. I was solely focused. And let me take a pause here. I had no interest, zero interest. People who had done triathlons, like, why don't you do like a sprint or an Olympic distance or half Ironman, which all of those essentially are shorter distances, much shorter distances than the Ironman. And I was like, I can't. I like to take big risks, and that's exactly what I'm going to do in this case. I'm going for the whole freaking enchilada. And so I did. And my wife always laughs at me. She's like, you're crazy, man. Like, you just get your mind set on something and you just do it. And she goes, me and the whole family just believe, like, anytime you say you're going to do it, you're just going to do it. It's just going to happen. So when I first started out, I didn't even own a bike. So I went to a local cycling class. There's like, kind of like a grit cycle. I don't know if you're familiar with them, like the indoor kind of like a workout class. I go in there and it's a bunch of just women and me. I'm the only guy in the class. And I remember getting set up on the stationary bike, and they're like, you got to put these special shoes on and you clip in. It took me like a few minutes to figure out how to clip in. I was like, oh, this is embarrassing. I don't even know what I'm doing. So I did a couple of those classes. And then I was like, I got to get myself a bike. If I'm going to, at this point, I had probably about 5 months. I was like, if I'm going to be an Ironman, if I'm going to do this, I have to go get a bike. Now, a triathlon bike, those things are big money, expensive. I can't say big money. Big money is like crazy amount, but this is like very expensive still. A nice triathlon bike, a new one, $5,000. You want to get a top of the line, triple it. And so I was like, I really don't want to spend $5,000 on a bike for something that I don't know if I'm going to do it, more than once. So I drove down to I went online, I found a local bike shop, go in there, and this guy, small little place. And I was like, dude, I need a bike. I'm doing a Ironman. What do you got? And he goes, walk with me. So we walk outside and we go down a couple doors and we go into another little shop that he had. And he turns on the lights, and the bunch of bikes in there, old used ones, they got dust on it. He goes, I got the perfect bike for you. I said, okay. And he pulls the bike down off the rack and he dusts it off. And he's like, this one is meant for you. Like, it's going to do exactly what you need it to do. It's called a Felt B12. And he's like, it's 12, 13 years old, but it's got 2 wheels. It works. It has the aero bars, which if you don't, the aero bars, think about like when you see a cyclist ride by you, like on the street, they're like hunched over on these bars, like leaning forward. Those are aero bars, and you need those for a triathlon. So I was like, done. $1,200. I'll take it. It's a steal. 1,200 compared to 5,000 to 10, 15. I'll do it. Whatever. So I was in the bike game. He threw in some shoes to go with it, a helmet. I had to get a bike suit, which is just so funny. I never thought I always kind of laughed at those cyclists, on the side of the road, like with their funky outfits. But here I was. I have a bright red helmet, and my funny suit that's like skin tight. And I took the bike home. He actually had me to try ride it around outside with my shoes on. I didn't clip in. And I was like, yeah, it feels great. But in my head, I'm like, the seat is rock hard. It's like hitting me in areas that's like not good. It's hard to stabilize on this thing. Good luck to Nick. Good luck to me. But I said, I'll take it. I took it home. I got the bike shoes. I clipped in. Very first ride. I'm riding for all of about 20 seconds. I try to stop and I fall and scratch up my arm and bruise my I think I bruised my elbow or something. It sucked. And I figured in my head, this is going to be a long 5 months. But nonetheless, I have to keep going. I pulled off a training schedule off of the Ironman.com website. On there was a breakdown. It was essentially a 6-month training plan. They're like, just follow this and you will become an Ironman. So every day I did it. The first month or two was about 15 hours on average, or minimum 15 hours of exercise. And it did ramp up. probably about a month and a half prior to the actual race day, which was on April 27th here in 2024. On about a month and a half before, it was 20 plus hours. I ended up doing the LA Marathon. I was like, I got to get a marathon and just to see how it goes. That was 30 days prior to the Ironman. Probably not the best decision just for your body recover, but I said, screw it. I got to do it. Again, when I'm all in on something, I take the risk and I go. There's no plan B. I have to do it. And so I when I was training at that time, that month and a half out, those weeks were 20 plus hours. The week of the marathon, I did about 27 and a half hours of exercise that week. So this became very much a part-time job, just trying to do it. The 3 months prior to race day, I actually became kind of depressed. It's a different experience when you're training. Let's say on one Saturday, you go ride your bike for 6 hours and then you do a 20-minute run when you get back. It's hard to get excited that, hey, I made it. It feels so good, because the next day I'm going to do a 3-hour triathlon around here in Orange County. Like, I'd go in the Pacific Ocean. I'd swim for 45 minutes, which I hated swimming in the ocean. I love surfing, but something about swimming, like looking down and like not being able to see anything. And it's very cold. It's sub 60 degrees. And just, you're the only one out there. It's just a weird feeling. I don't like it. So you go for 45-minute swim, ride your bike for an hour, and then go for an hour and a half by run or 2-hour run, and then the next day you go again. All the while you're trying to live your normal life. You're trying, my personal relationships like all had to go on a pause. I felt so bad, and I think that led to me feeling taking a hit on my mental health, is not having that support system, because I had to stop all of that. When it came to race day, we did it. It was in the Lake Woodlands in Texas, so just outside of Houston, and got there a few days earlier. It was seeing everybody. There was 27 or 2,800 people that signed up. For reference, the LA Marathon was 25,000 plus people. This was like 2,500 plus people. So much, much smaller. Looking at everybody, as a former baseball player, I remember going to tournaments or when we'd play other teams, like you kind of like size up the other team and think like, man, can I take these guys? Like, are we going to win? Sometimes we would be like, yeah, they're going to get smoked. Or other times like, oh man, we're going to get crushed. Just doing the old eyeball test. So I was doing the same thing there. Everybody, for the most part, was like in incredible shape, like veins popping, just like lean, mean, no fat on them. And a lot of them already had the Ironman tattoo on their calf. Like they'd already done it and they're back for more. And I'm like, oh boy, I'm in it now. So got to go for it now. No turning back. That week or two prior, I started telling people at work. I started to really let it get out that I was going to do this. The whole time I was kind of in this silent suffering where I was doing all of this training, plus trying to work and survive and be a good human and be there for my wife. And I didn't want to tell anybody that I was doing this. Like, I just wanted to be private, and I just wanted to get through it and then tell people the week of. I wanted to tell people because I wanted to increase the pressure of the event. I wanted it to be as hard as it possibly could be. It's very windy there in the Lake Woodlands, which I knew going into it. On the day of the race, it was like 18, 19 miles an hour winds, like pretty consistently all day, with gusts up to 33 miles an hour. I know there was tornado warnings all throughout Texas that day. Like, it was high 80s, felt like low 90s. Humidity was very high. It lived up to the expectations that I had and what I prepared for. I remember I got a membership at a local sauna. I'd go sit in there and just sweat for 40 minutes. Like, I prepared to go to war against my mind, against my body. And that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted it to be as hard as it freaking could be. And it delivered. On the race day, on the 2.4 mile swim, the lake, it was in Lake Woodlands, and you take off like 5 people at a time. Every 5 seconds, it's 5 more. And you get in there and you just got to push your way through. Like, there's tons of bodies you're swimming by. They're swimming on top of you. You're swimming under them. You're swimming on top of them. You're bumping them. You're getting hit in the face. They're grabbing your feet. Like, it's a battle, and it was like that the whole time from start to finish. There was not a single time where it let up. Like it was congested the whole swim. I ended up finishing the 2.4 mile swim in about an hour and 20 minutes. A little slower than I would have liked, but I was okay with the time because like it's my first one, and I didn't expect the barriers of human bodies you have to get through. So got out of that, transition into the bike, which is essentially a transition. Just means like I was wearing a what's called a tri suit or triathlon suit. It's like a onesie with a zipper that you can unzip your like a shirt. So just kind of dried that off, and then I threw I take these like goo. I don't know if you've ever seen goo, like you slide it in your mouth. It's like it's got carbs and salt in it and some calories. Threw those into my pockets on my triathlon suit, and off to the races. I high-fived my family. I had my mom there, my dad there, I had my wife, I had my in-laws, like my family was there. Like it was so cool. I was so happy that they were there, and they really loved the experience. So off to the bike, 112 miles, pretty gnarly. And the bike, it took me just under 6 hours and 20 minutes. It was long. The first 30 minutes or so, you're riding through the town a little bit, and then you go out on the toll road. It's called the Hardy Toll Road, and it's just open wind. I mean, what's Mike Tyson says an old phrase, like everybody has a plan till they get punched in the face. Like I was punched in the face by the wind, and luckily I trained riding my bike through hills here in Orange County. Like I did a lot of hills, a lot of incline. So pushing through that wind it was pretty bad, but I expected it. I was ready to go. Now, when the wind's at your back, it can also get pretty gnarly, because now I'm going minimum 23 miles an hour up to sometimes 30, 35 miles an hour. And that's pretty darn fast. There was a lot of accidents that happened on the bike. 20% of people who signed up didn't finish. That's a very high rate for the Ironman. I remember at one point riding by this group of people that had collided. The ambulance was there. They're loading them into the ambulance, and it was, for a moment, I took a pause as I'm riding my bike. Like, Nick, you got to stay focused. I started to freak out a little bit. Like, I don't want to be going 20-something miles an hour and be in this very, very serious crash or fall or do anything like that. I remember seeing all throughout the race people who fell and their faces were cut up and bleeding, their arms were cut up and bleeding, and it was real. Like this was something that I'm glad that I put a lot of time and effort into, because it's not something. When I did the LA Marathon, there was a lot of people that just showed up that day and probably hadn't ran even a mile in a year or ever. But the Ironman is a different ball game. Get off the bike to my family screaming and roaring. They're so excited. It was funny. I was coming into the finish line of the bike, and the lady there's like a lady saying like, stop. And I hit the brakes so hard. And just as the first time I rode my bike, when I fell on the last time too. And, it scratched up my arm, and I stood up and like cheered on the crowd, and everyone started cheering me. And then off to the run I went. I was like, hey, my arm is all cut up and it's bleeding now all over the place now, but this is the Ironman, baby, and I'm in it. I needed that. It's like a badge of honor to fall on the bike, even though I did it in the most embarrassing possible way. Off to the run I went. My feet freaking hurt. The first 5-10 minutes of the run, I was walking, just trying to stretch out my feet. I remember telling my feet, like, you need to get it together. Like, this is 26.2 miles. This is a serious adventure. It's going to take me at least 4 hours. You have to get it together. Eventually, I'm talking to my feet as if they're like people, but I need them to get in line, and get in line they did. So finally I got those, but my stomach, like you get the gastrointestinal issues like high up in your stomach. It's like this piercing pain that I had for the whole four. I think I finished it in like just over 4 hours, 4.5 hours. That whole run was incredible pain. Like I don't ever want to feel like that again. It was a terrible feeling. The last 8 miles was pure hell. At one point I did get a little wobbly, I think, with the heat, and I wasn't taking in enough fluids because my stomach hurt so bad that I got a little dizzy, and I was like, Nick, you made it all this way, dude. You got people that are following along on the app. There's people at work. There's all your friends, family who followed you on this journey. You have to finish. You cannot fall. If you fall or you pass out, that's it. Like, you got to get it together. So I took some deep breaths, kind of took it easy for a few minutes. I got to the next aid station, like they give out water and Gatorade and drinks and snacks. I was like, grab some hydration, grab some electrolytes, and let's freaking go. And so those final eight miles, I did make it to my family roaring at the end, and I just gave a big whoa, like just so pumped when I made it. But when I crossed the line, I didn't feel the sense of pride. I thought I would be emotional. I thought it would be tearing up. I think I pushed my body, like it was so empty. There was nothing left that I couldn't feel anything other than, finally, I don't have to run, I don't have to bike, and I don't have to swim anymore. It just kind of feels good. That night, we go out to get some food. Like, it was hard to eat. Go to sleep. I had a fever. My body was running pretty hot, which I guess is very common for these types of events because you're going for so long. And then go to bed that night, probably around midnight. I finished the race in 12 hours and 58 minutes. My goal, my family just wanted me to survive. Me, I had to get less than 13 hours. Like, it would have pained me if I made it after 13 hours and 1 second. Like, I wanted it so bad, and I'm so happy that I did. The pride didn't set in probably until 2 days later when I had gotten home. And when it did, like when I'm walking around, like going out to eat or just like out in the community, I was just like, I want everybody to know what I just did. Like, I felt like freaking King Kong, like Superman was walking around. And what a feeling it was. After about a week, I came to realize that success, and this is where I'm going to tie in some food service stuff and just some business stuff. Success is a fleeting feeling. When you achieve success, it feels so great when you do. But eventually that kind of dies off. That's why it's a fleeting feeling. If you want to achieve greatness, it's not just being successful one time. It's not just doing the Ironman one time or doing whatever your Ironman is in your life. It's doing it many, many, many times. Not to compare myself to Tom Brady because he's on a completely different atmosphere for me. But if you were to look at Tom Brady's career and he only won one Super Bowl, you would think that's a successful person. He's a Super Bowl champion. He reached Mount Everest. But he didn't just do it one time. He did it many times. He did it on multiple teams. That is greatness. And that's what etches his name into NFL history as one of, if not the best player to ever play the game. That's what being great is all about. So when I come home, I feel this sense of pride. And then after a while, as it starts to die down, I'm like, get back in the pool, get back on the bike, put the running shoes on. Let's go. Time to lace up, and we're going to do it again. So I'm going to go after it again. I wanted to talk about some things that I learned. One is if you want to go faster, like in a run or a bike, you have to train going slower. Focus on your form, focus on going further distances so that when there's time to ramp up, your body can withstand that pain. So to go fast, you have to learn how to go slow. Same thing in business. Same thing in sales. Like, I see this all the time. People are out making calls, traveling, doing this, doing that. Sometimes it's too much. Like, you get burned out, you're missing opportunities, you're stepping over dollars to just pick up little pennies as you go along, and you're sapping your energy. The best salespeople, they're not necessarily always out making sales after call after call after call after call after call. Prioritize your time. Learn from the presentations that you're making. What is working? What is not working? What do you learn from others? Educate yourself. Practice. Those types of things will lead to a more successful long-term career in any sales profession. So that's definitely something I learned. You want to go fast, you gotta practice going slow. Very important. The second thing is, when training for an Ironman, it's not about I'm gonna go one morning. I'm not gonna go run 2 miles. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna go run 2 miles. I'm gonna go run an hour. I'm going to go run 30 minutes. I'm going to go run for 2 hours. Practice and prioritize time as opposed to just a hard result. If you look at it in your workday, you can, if you open up your email every day, it's like, okay, I'm going to answer this email, this email, this email. I'm going to do this project. I'm going to do that project. At the end of the day, you find like, I just moved in place. What I like to do, and one thing I've learned from this, is called the Pomodoro effect. I think it's effect or Pomodoro style. I don't know. I don't freaking know. Okay. So the Pomodoro, so essentially set a timer, 20 minutes, and you're going to work your freaking butt off for 20 minutes, focused. Turn off your phone, and you're going to get after it for 20 minutes. Once the alarm goes off at the end of 20 minutes, you're going to take a 5-10 minute break. Go get a water, refill your coffee, relax, do nothing work related. Then at the end of that 5-10 minutes, you're going to set the clock and you're going to go again for 20 minutes. And then you're going to take your 5-10 minute break. Then you're going to do it again, 20 minutes. By focusing on the time as opposed to just getting this project done or doing a little bit of this project or getting these emails done, if you focus on time, like you can do marathon amounts of work and you're going to be much, much more productive. So that was another lesson that I learned from everything. The final lesson that I wanted to talk about is that when I was exercising and training, there was different zones that I would focus on. The first zone was like the comfort level zone. So if you think about like in a mile, I could run a 9.5-9 minute mile pretty easily. Like it was a comfort zone. I could do that consistently. I could then push it into another gear, and my mind believed that I could do probably 8 minutes, 15 seconds to 8.5 minutes, maybe 8:45. And that's like pushing it. And my mind would set this limit. Like that's the 8:15 is the top, is the fastest you can go, Nick, for long distances, for over an hour and a half or 2 hours. But then there was this third level, which was up and above what my mind believed my body could do. And when you get into that level, when you go past a level that your mind doesn't think is even possible, there's like this bliss and happiness that I can't explain unless you do it, where it's just like, whoa, I just ran for an hour and a half at a 7.5 minute mile pace. That was flying. And you at the end, like you can't move your legs anymore. You're so exhausted. You're so tired. But like you get a dopamine release and you feel this sense of like power and you feel this sense of like strength that is unmatched. I think that's anything in life, is your mind sets limits. Let me give you an example. The NFL draft happened when the week I was there in Texas doing the Ironman. And so many players, they expected to get drafted a certain round, and then they'd fall down, and then they would go to the media or they'd get interviewed, and they say, I've got a chip on my shoulder. I'm going to prove everybody wrong. You don't need to prove everybody wrong. There's not as much happiness in that. Prove yourself. If you could prove yourself wrong, wow. It's like a whole nother world opens up. You're trying to prove others wrong who don't even freaking know you. Like they don't. Just because you fell down in certain rounds doesn't mean anything. Prove yourself wrong. And when you can do that, when you can push back limits that your mind and body and soul have put on you, you're going to go much, much further than trying to prove some random person wrong. So those were my learnings and my takeaways. I promise on the next episode, we're going to bring in some home run hitters here onto the Titans of Foodservice, talk about food service, but just wanted to share my Ironman experience. Thank you for listening along. Appreciate all of you. And please, if you like these episodes, if you can give me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever the heck you're listening to this, YouTube, I greatly appreciate it. See ya.